When 9/11 happened, right, and America did what it did, it was declared an act of war.
Yeah.
So that's how people in Israel look at it. They look at it, we're at war with Gaza. They're not looking at it as this is a genocide, all of these innocent kids and women and civilians are getting killed.
I think that's what I gotta say with this one thing, because a lot of people don't understand that others don't think like that, right? They have a different perspective, and it's so hard for people to grasp that. So then they assume that the other side is evil, right? So they say like, oh, the Israelis are evil. The Israelis aren't evil. It's just a power dynamic. And in the way that it developed, the people inside Israel genuinely believe that they're at war and that if they give the Palestinians any rights and if they stop bombing them, they're all gonna die, right? It's not true, they're totally wrong, right? But they genuinely believe that. So that's why they're doing it, not because they're like, whoa, let's kill more Muslims, right? But it doesn't mean that you don't try to stop them. You try to stop them because they're wrong, right? But you don't have to do it while hating them. Because once we start hating one another, the war never ends.
Yeah, everything becomes justified.
And how did we look? One more thing.
But to that point, to the point you just made, it is very hard to not hate somebody if you see them killing a bunch of innocent women, children,
of course,
and just people.
Yeah,
right?
and so, but that's why.
And real quick, I think what Jewish people, or at least Israeli people, would say in that moment would be like, okay, so then how do we make sure that we're safe? They're like, I don't like Bibi. I don't like this curtain cover. I don't like the settlers. I don't like the extreme right wing. I think it's awful what's happening on the West Bank. Like, but if we just stop right now, do you really think that they're not going to keep bombing us? And and you would say yes,
100%.
And they would say, which I'm sure you've had these conversations. They would say, I don't think that's going to happen. And I'll be honest, I've been in these conversations where I'm like, I don't know what they would do. I would hope.
You're positive that Hamas or any type of terrorist organization would stop going after Israel if Israel ceasefire now?
Yeah, no, hold on. Let me explain.
Okay.
Yeah.
So every time that there's a peace deal, you negotiate with an enemy. And an enemy that's usually killed a lot of your people and you've killed a lot of their people, so you fucking hate them, right? You don't get to negotiate with friends, right? So is it possible to end the cycle of hatred? Yes. It's happened 1,000 times throughout history. And I want to tell you about the civil rights movement and how we broke it here in America. But the best example is Israel itself. It made a peace deal with its worst enemy, Egypt, right? Egypt and Israel had gone into several wars, and Egypt led all the Arab countries to attack Israel, right? So they were Hamas times 1,000 in that sense, right? And Hamas has almost no power. The most they could do is October 7th, right? Which is already terrible.
It's a lot, yeah.
But back then in 67 and 73, Israel was legitimately worried they were going to get wiped off the face of the earth by these fucking Egyptians who keep attacking, and they're going to kill us all. And they did a peace deal, 0 attacks since then. 0, right?
By Egypt.
By Egypt.
Yeah.
Peace deals work. Are they magic? They work perfectly every time? No. But do they generally work? Yes. Did Israel already make a peace deal that's 1,000 times bigger than the one that they're currently contemplating? Yes. Did it work? Yes.
I think
right? So what?
I don't know. I think
Let the Jewish man talk. Let the Jew go.
I think the difference is the Egyptians weren't fighting for their own survival. They were fighting for dominance within the region. But the Palestinians feel, as a Jew, I got to admit it, rightfully, we don't have anything. We have to keep fighting.
Egypt still had Egypt.
But think about that. So my idea, my solution is easy. You do a deal.
Make it Turkey. Bring back the Ottoman Empire. Everybody was happy during the Ottoman Empire, right? Isn't that what they tell us?
Right. But we would know a thing or two about it because we used to occupy Palestine.
That's right. You
and
guys
were
the
occupy
OGs.
Israel.
You sold it to the Israelis. It's really your fault.
Yeah. Well,
you sold some land.
But this is what I would say to my Jewish friends, right? So Turkey, the Ottoman Empire did the Armenian Genocide, right? Killed tons and tons of Armenians, right? Way more than the Palestinians killed in Gaza right now, right? So then did the Armenians at that time hate us? Of course they hated us. We just fucking butchered them. Yeah. Of course they hated us, right? If you had given Armenian rebels at the time that you could call terrorists or rebels or freedom fighters, depending on your perspective, if you gave them a button and said, wipe all Turks off the face of the earth, my guess is 99 out of 100 of those guys would have pressed the button, right? So then the Turks could say, well, I can't give up any sovereignty to the Armenians.
Right.
They'd kill us all. And they would have, right? But that's because you butchered them. That's because you can't. So in this case, the Palestinians have been occupied for 58 years.
Right.
How long does it take? No. It's look. I got to be honest. It's deeply racist to say, and I'll say it, to say that Muslims cannot control themselves. Palestinians.
Who's saying that?
Israelis.
Okay.
Israelis say if we give them a state, that's it. They're going to bomb us. They're violent savages. Violent savages.
Hold on a second.
You're the one occupying them. You're the one killing them.
That's fair, but nobody in this room is saying that.
That's
why I just want to make sure. Like, so what I think there is like one. I think there's one little thing here that is probably important to bring up, which is like there are at least one other country that seems to be involved financially and militarily in this circumstance, in terms of the defense of the Palestinian people, that you could make the argument that they really care about their sovereignty and their protection.
Talking about Iran.
Iran?
Yeah, Iran.
Okay.
So and it's like if Iran was like, okay, I'm not going to fund anything else, or Qatar or whatever, and you could be 100% right. What I'm saying is the average person in Israel that's against Bibi, hates what's happening, wants peace. Are they wrong to assume that war would potentially continue even if there was a peace deal? Are they
definitely wrong? They're definitely wrong.
Really? Okay.
So because they say, okay, look, we've kept these 5.5 million people as hostages basically for 58 years. We've given them no rights. And by the way, anytime we want, we could apparently come in and destroy their entire living area. We could starve them. We could do whatever we want. We are their.
It's fair to call it apartheid.
It's at a minimum apartheid, right? And then they're like, I can't believe they're fighting back.
Right.
Okay, my precondition, hold on. My precondition for letting you go is that you have to love me and you have to all stop fighting me forever and ever and ever. Even though I still keep you as prisoner. I can make you no goddamn promises and I keep taking more of your land in the West Bank. Now I'm going to take all of Gaza Strip. Yeah. And you don't love me enough. Now fuck off. No way.
I think you're making a compelling argument. It's not addressing what I'm presenting though.
Okay, go ahead.
Which is in this idyllic scenario that you have described, which is just like, let them have their sovereignty, let them have their agency and their rights, their own country, the place where they go, right? Yeah. Given the history and the hatred that exists and other countries that are stoking the fire because
why are they stoking the fire?
Well, now we're going to get into a geopolitical discussion about what's happening with other Arab states and Israel, and are some of these actions meant to fracture relations between Israel and Saudi or Israel and the Emiratis? Like we can't act like geopolitical discussions are. It seems like I'm listen, you rolling your eyes makes me at least feel in this moment that you think that I'm defending the actions. I'm not defending the actions at all. What I'm trying to get us to understand is it's not as simple as, hey guys, can you just agree on this ceasefire and then go your separate ways?
No, but guys, under that, you would never get a peace
Let me
deal.
ask you a question.
You would never get one.
Let me ask you a question.
And why would you never get one? I can't trust those motherfucking Arabs and Muslims.
I
can't trust them. They're violent. They're savage.
You know what you're not factoring in? You're not factoring in plain old human emotions. Because how do you forgive and forget?
Well, how do the Palestinians
so much blood is shed?
I'm talking
about both sides. How do both sides just forgive and forget when so much blood is shed?
Because that's what happens in every peace deal. In the Civil War, we killed 600,000 people, our South and North.
But there's no peace.
And the North came in and just
But there's no peace, really.
No, and then hold on. So that
we learned to be a little civil,
right.
But there's really no peace. Eventually,
Japan is an ally now, a close ally.
Japan is an ally. Germany is an ally. Egypt and Israel are allies.
But is that because everybody that was around to remember has died out?
Also, there was accountability for actions. Like there was court hearings and there was punishments held for the people that were in power. This is a different thing. Like if you want a process, there has to be some accountability and some agency.
Well, there's also a Marshall Plan, and there was also McCarthy in Japan. And that's, as much as I hate to admit this, the one thing I think Trump might have right is when he does that ridiculous AI video of a gleaming new Gaza with that's what it's going to take is throwing fucking money at this shit.
Guys, the solutions already exist. The 53 Arab state coalition has said, we definitely recognize Israel. We will help make sure that Hamas does not get back into Gaza. Okay, so we'll take on that responsibility.
But then it'll be another terrorist organization later.
And we'll fund the reconstruction.
I love this scenario because
what is this? Because I'm not familiar with it.
The 53 Arab states have said, recognize Israel. We'll rebuild Gaza, and we'll make sure Hamas doesn't get back in. You can't ask for more than that. If you ask for more than that, you don't want.
Can I ask you a question? This is and we don't have to have like concrete facts for this, right? But like, do you think that there's any part of maybe some of the Arab states that are going, hey, we have to transition into an economy that is not reliant on oil? We can look at tourism and destinations as a way to function for the next 100 years. Maybe, who knows, we develop fusion with AI and now oil's worth nothing because we can turn air into oil, right? Like, we have to look at what the next 200 years is, and it's probably not going to be oil dependent. Let's build up our countries, have them be destinations for people to come to. We cannot have that if there is uncertainty. We cannot have that as there is terrorism. Is there any way that a couple of these Arab states are just going like, listen, we're going to look the other way. You guys get fucking Hamas out of there because we're not going to intervene. They could. They have militaries that you guys do whatever the fuck you want, get them out of there. And when it's cleaned up, then we'll make sure that this is a fun, safe place for everybody to come party at. Is there a possibility that there is at least some of them looking the other way because of that?
So I'm no fan of the Arab states. Like,
I didn't ask you if you're a fan. I just asked like this
my point is,
hypothetical scenario, like why there seems to be not so much of, I don't want to say interference, but there doesn't seem to be much objection.
No, the Arab states, like all governments, look out for themselves first.
Got it.
Right? And especially because a lot of them are dictatorships, they're going to look out for like the
their
top
own
guys,
best
the
interest.
princes, before they look out for their own people, let alone the Palestinian people, right?
Got it.
So does that happen? Of course it happens, right?
Got it.
And do they have ulterior motives? They might have ulterior motives. But look, go back to how you get to peace. So I'll give you one interesting example. Turks and Greeks live together in Cyprus. So Greeks are about 60%, Turks are about 40%. Okay, this is a very rough.
I don't know if this is a good example you're about to bring up at all.
Yeah,
You're about to
let's-
bring up a horrible fucking example.
Well, let's see what happens.
Okay.
Shoot is shoot.
By all means, I cannot believe
The floor
you're
is
bringing up the Cypriots, but go on. let's
Okay,
go.
so the Greeks, since they're the majority, they win in a democracy, right? But they're still pissed at the Turks for 500 years of occupation. So they're taking out some Turks every once in a while. There's violence. And the Turkish government's like, cut the shit out. And they won't. And so they actually go to England to negotiate, and they're not getting anything. The Turkish prime minister calls the general and says, send the mother. That means invade Cyprus. Okay, so they invade Cyprus. They take the whole island. Then they do something amazing. They give 60% of it back to the Greeks. They take 40%. Now, a lot of bad things because, one, there was an invasion. Two, the Greeks that were on the Turkish side got to move to the other side. The Turks that were on the Greek side got to move to the other side. So that's all bad, okay? But then they build a giant wall. And you know how many people have died in Cyprus since then? 0.
Yeah.
So you want them to build the wall?
Yes, I do. I get it. I'm not playing.
It's like,
You want Israel to build the wall?
I get it. Yeah.
they already built one. See, but the point is,
seriously.
these people can never live together, and we should just build a wall and divide them. That's your point.
For about 50 years, then they'll be fine.
Right, got
Okay?
it. Got it.
Seriously. Like if you do 1967 borders and you go West Bank and Gaza is Palestine, this is Israel, build the biggest walls the world, make the Great Wall of China look like child's play, right?
When I think about all of these,
And
when I-
nobody's gonna
Here's
die.
my, and this is not a solution, but here's what I would do if I was prime minister or whatever of Israel. I would make the West Bank a Palestinian paradise.
That's what I'm saying.
I would go, hey, why don't we prove that a place without a terrorist organization that has leadership can be an amazing life for Arabs, Palestinians, for Christian Palestinians.
you're going to let
for-
the Palestinians stay.
No, not only let them say, do
Okay.
not do any more settlements. Like, make this place a beautiful place where these people can thrive.
So the opposite
then-
of Brooklyn. You're going to build it up and make it nice and leave the locals there.
And like
gotcha.
allow them to thrive and have this amazing life. And then it's this example of like what could be, right?
So, Andrew, the problem is...
Well, the problem is that there are people in the government that don't want that fucking thing, and they're
Exactly.
sending settlements, and
So,
it's like
There's a difference between political leaders in a government and the people themselves, right?
100%.
So whether you're talking about Jews overall or you're talking about Israeli citizens, do they want perpetual war? No, they don't, right? Of
course not.
Do they want to take more Arab land? No, they just want to be safe.
Yes.
And, to your point about the two things, they want money, they want to be safe, just like any human being, right? So, but the leaders want something else.
Yes.
They want greater Israel, right?
For their own salvation too,
and
because
for their own self-interest. So what is Greater Israel? You take Gaza Strip, you take the West Bank, you take, by the way, Western Syria. They're in Western Syria, right?
Lebanon, maybe?
You take Southern Lebanon. They're in Southern Lebanon. So if they have a map in the Knesset of Greater Israel in their cabinet, and it includes all of that land. And now, oh, look at that. We found a way to get all of that land while pretending to do self-defense. Okay, right. So I'm not putting that on the Israeli people. I don't think that they think that. They're not part of any cabal. They're not part of any conspiracy. They're just regular people.
Question: Are they pretending to do self-defense? I'm just asking because, like I said, to them it's an act of war. They were attacked.
No. So when you say on October 8th is a self-defense, yes. Okay. And I said they should have used special forces. They should actually went and found Hamas. Oh, well, that's dangerous. Well, no shit, Sherlock. You're the IDF. Carpet bombing the civilians isn't helping you. It didn't even get Hamas, right? Get in, I get it. You got to do self-defense. We're 2 years later.
Yeah.
What's self-defense? And they just announced in their cabinet, we're taking Gaza. We're taking it, right? They have this hilarious bullshit about, oh no, we're going to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians and push them into the Sinai desert. But don't worry, we'll let them back in a couple of years. They're not letting them back. They're just stealing it, okay? Yeah. So, but people have to separate out the Israeli people and the government.
What is the objection to the Arab coalition that runs Gaza and makes sure that there's no terrorist entity that's there? Like, I love that idea. I think it'd probably be better for Palestinians to not be ruled over by Israelis, obviously because of like historical implications, but also like what a fantastic idea to rebuild the region. And like,
well, I mean, I think we're leaving a major component out on both sides of the conversation, which is religion, right? I do think the mass of Palestinians, Jews, whoever's in the region want the same thing, to your point. Mm-hmm. I want to make some money. I want to be safe. And I agree, like, do I think every Israeli sitting around wringing their hands, yeah, we're going to kill some Arabs? No. I have to be real, though. There are religious Jews who believe that's who's doing the settlements, right? Yeah. This is ours. This is our God-given right. We're doing this come hell or high water. They are radicals. Yeah. And there are the same elements on the other side who feel this is ours. It's our given right. And I think they're the ones forcing this thing constantly.
Stoking the flames, 100%.
There's one other religion that's creating a problem. So you're right. Radical Jews want all of Greater Israel. Radical Muslims think it's the Holy Land, ours. But then there's a Christian Zionist here in America.
Sure.
That's what I was referring to.
They're falling off.
They are falling off, but they still had a lot of power.
That was like 80s, 90s. Now I feel
they're
like...
back.
No. Huckabee's the ambassador to Israel.
And Huckabee is 100 years old. I feel like, to be honest, like the religious right in America is actually acting... They're quite critical.
No, they're getting better. They're getting better. But for a long, long time, the Christian Zionists were more powerful than AIPAC, right? So, so what the Christian Zionists want is these idiots.
The Jews got to be in the Holy Land in order for Jesus to come back and then kill them all so that they can have
it. The red cow shows up.
They have this whole rigmarole. That, like,
that would prove they were right. If that happened. How would you report that? Like seriously, if Jesus actually came back, what would you say?
No, I'd be like, welcome to the Young Turks. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it, Jesus. I didn't mean it. You know why? Because I believe in facts. If he came back, then I was wrong.
Yeah.
And one of my friends in Turkey says, Cenk, being on the left, it's so hard to make money, man. Why don't you just one day wake up and say you saw Jesus in a dream? Man, you found Jesus. Let's get rich. Let's get rich. Just say you found Jesus, and now you're a right winger. They'll give you so much money.
Yeah.
Right? But of course, I'm not going to do that. But those guys had this 7-step plan. They have to destroy Al-Aqsa Mosque. Israel has to take the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Then Jesus comes back and kills everyone. And I'm like, why do you even want Jesus to kill everyone? Like, what a crazy. No, it's not in the Bible. It's not in the Bible. Just made this shit up in America.
This is we're just in the holding cell, man. We got to go to the greater pastures. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And we're just hanging out until we go to heaven.
You said something earlier that makes a lot of sense. You said that, the government thinks one way and the people think another way. And that's why I go back to the point I made earlier. How are the people ever going to forget this to where there's actual peace? How are they ever going to forget either side? If you lost family on October 7th, if your family was one of the people that got killed in Gaza, how are you ever going to forgive the other side?
I'll be honest,
ever?
I don't know.
Even if the government says it's peace.
Bro, I don't even...
I'll give you a good example and a bad example. Okay. Turks at war with everyone for 500 years, right? Biggest, makes Israel look like child's play. We occupied everybody, right? So the minute that we lost in World War I, so all that's over, right? So the Armenians and the Greeks think that we hate them. But I know Turks. We don't hate them at all. Mm-hmm. Okay, why? Because we were the ones who fuck them up. They didn't fuck us up too bad, right? I mean, in World War I, a lot of people got killed, but overall, we're not sweating it. Like, I don't know any Turk that hates Armenians or Greeks. None, right? So one side's almost covered. Like, if Israel did a peace deal...
You don't know any Turks that hate Greeks?
No, I don't. I swear to God. And I tell you, like...
They got all the hate out.
Yeah, we did. I mean, like, because we were the ones kicking their ass, right?
We got no Turks.
We got all the hate out. It's
Greeks.
hilarious.
Who invented baklava?
The Turks, huh?
Yeah.
But I don't hate them for saying it. So now, do the Armenians still hate the Turks?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And I think that's it's just the feeling of a lack of acknowledgement of what happened, and that's why I think acknowledging things is helpful.
Huge.
And
that's right.
that's Germany. It's
all it takes is one.
You
right?
have, what were they called? The Nuremberg trials. I think that part of that, the Nuremberg trials is obviously justice being served, but also this idea of like admission and an ability to hopefully in decades move forward. And I think that is very important to doing that. Like, I think,
the Chinese, do the Japanese hate the Chinese? No. The Chinese still hate the Japanese
100%.
because of the rape of Nanking, right? And Japan never acknowledged it, and that's why they're super mad. Turkey never acknowledged the Armenian genocide, why the Armenians are super mad. But I'm in an Uber in London, and it's a Bulgarian guy, right? And I'm like, oh, the Bulgarians, you hate the Turks, right? Because historically we occupied them, they also hate us. He's like, no, not anymore. We vacation in Turkey. We like Turkey now. I'm like, really, what happened? Yeah, our economy got better. And then we're like, that was a long time ago. Who gives a shit? Turkey's beautiful. Let's go.
So it's going to take
interest.
It's going to take a generation at least.
But nobody's killing anybody.
Yeah, maybe two or three.
But
nobody's killing anyone. Right? That's right.
It has to be peace, and it has to be decades. And with that, there is this ability to reconcile the actions and move forward. I agree, but you need peace.
Well, we won't see it in our lifetime.
No, but
maybe at the end.
We can. We got. I mean, look, when Jimmy Carter got that peace deal between Israel and Egypt, no one thought it was possible. They were making fun of him. It's not going to happen in our lifetime. Peace in the Middle East. Right. This Jimmy Carter guy is crazy. Well, you know what he did? You need people to break the cycle of violence and hatred, right? So what Jimmy Carter did there was they were both going to leave at different times. Sadat was and Begin was. He literally grounded their helicopters. He wouldn't let them leave.
Wow.
Okay. And he's like, nope, you're stuck in Camp David until you have a deal. Okay.
Wow.
So, and how did Martin Luther King break the cycle of violence and hatred? Right. He did civil disobedience, and he didn't
necessarily break it. I get what you're saying, though.
No, but he went a long, long way, and he got the Civil Rights Act.
Legislation got passed.
Act,
yes.
Okay.
But didn't change the hearts of people, is what I'm.
But he changed a lot of hearts, not all hearts, but a lot of hearts, right? And so what did he do? Did he do it by attacking? No. Did he do it through violence and further hatred? No. When I was younger, this is the one, I love Martin Luther King, right? But there's one line I never understood, and now I get it. He said, hate can't drive out hate. Only love can. Okay? And now I get it, because the more you hate the Israelis, the more the cycle of hatred continues.
Martin never also owned a gun, because a gun can drive out motherfuckers too. You pull that shit out.
But it won't, because the other guy will come back with two guns.
That is also true.
Right?
Yeah. So the violence needs to stop. There needs to stop on both
sides. We agree on that.
Yeah.
I just don't know how you change the hearts of people, even if like.
Right. If you're a kid who's growing up in Gaza right now, how do you not hate Israel?
Have you seen those videos where these kids are going to remember this forever?
And furthermore, like, how could the people in Gaza trust that there aren't going to be any more further expansions, or even in the West Bank? And how could the people in Israel trust that there aren't going to be any more attacks from Gaza? I think, even though we say right now, as these people that are in America in safety and not having to deal with all of it, going, yeah, if they just stop, everything will be fine, their hearts and minds won't believe it because of what they've endured their entire life.
If I'm the government of Israel, if I'm the government of Israel right now, I'm probably like, yeah, we probably do need to take it all over and get everybody out, because they're going to come back and hit us.
But then they're going to come back forever and ever and ever, because you just took their land.
That cycle will never stop.
I don't think it'll stop.
Yeah, and so...
I don't think it stops now.
But guys, at some point, peace requires some degree of trust.
I agree.
You can't do it without some degree of trust. And what's the alternative? Like, nobody ever talks about the alternative. The alternative is Israel keeps occupying the Palestinians for another 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And you know what happens? More Palestinians hate them, more Arabs hate them, more Muslims hate them.
You're right.
More world hates them. So how is the whole world hating Israel helping to keep Jews safe in Israel?
I agree
it's not at all.
with you.
And this is the larger concern as like American, like obviously as an American dude, like my concern is with the American people here, Palestinians and Jews, and what they're going through, right? So it's like you want to
agree.
make sure that they both feel safe, and this. This like deep connectivity to these experiences. Like these people have either been there or they still have family there. Like it's impossible to not feel that connection emotionally to what's going on and to not trust what the other side says they will do in the event that there is peace. So as much as I want to say, yeah, this is all we need to do to have it and figure it all out, I at least have to approach them with, you're not crazy to think it won't work.
I understand all your
You're
concerns.
not.
That's right.
You're both
That's
not
right.
crazy to think it won't
right.
work.
That's right. But the last thing I would ask them is, do you think that Israel is going to be safer in the next 20 years if you continue to occupy and have wars for those 20 years? Or do you think there's a higher chance that Israel will be safer if you do a peace deal? Both sides involve risk.
Yep.
I'm acknowledging the risk, right?
Yep.
But what is more likely to get you to peace? Peace or war?
I agree. I think that what they would probably say, because I've asked the exact same question, is and then what happens if that deal is broken? What do we do then?
Oh, it's so easy.
What do you do? What do you do?
So if Egypt had broken the deal and attacked Israel, then Israel gets to attack them back. America joins, Europe joins. No, we had a peace deal. A peace deal is a peace deal. Whoever breaks the peace deal, there's going to be consequences. Okay.
yeah.
So now there's no gossip at all if that happens.
So by your argument,
no, but like-
Israel would say by your argument, like that is what happened.
But there was no.
There was no deal.
There was no deal. There was
Agreed.
no peace. There was no sovereignty. There was no Palestinian state. And look, the absurd argument, they wouldn't let Israel exist. First of all, Israel does exist. You know what doesn't exist? Palestine.
Right.
Right. So you can't block them from existing and tell me, well,
I
hypothetically,
agree.
they might block me from existing, blah, 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 100 years from now or whatever. Besides which, they don't have anything.
We're just in a privileged position to be like over here in safety, not
Exactly.
dealing with any of it, and then telling them what would be best for them when
Exactly.
they're in there living it. And it's
Well, our safety is relative too.
say that. What is that? Was that?
I mean, I don't want to jinx anybody, but the more this continues to be a hot spot in tension.
Oh, you're saying we
People
could be
look-
brought into a.
You saw what happened to the couple in D.C.?
Yeah.
I mean,
Look, let's be honest. I mean, that's a great point. I mean, why
The people that got
does
set on fire with that San Francisco, I think it was.
so why does
what's
anyone-
9/11? I mean, you know,
Yeah.
Look, guys, if you don't know, why does I'm telling the audience, why does anybody in the Middle East chant "Death to America"? Because we support Israel. Period. We got no fight with them, right? Muslims didn't have a fight with us.
Right.
Like Muslims.
Wait a minute, it's not because they're jealous of our freedom?
I mean,
I thought they're jealous of our freedom, dude.
Yeah, I mean, they literally say absurd things like that. Cable news anchor was like, they hate us because they hate us. They hate us because they hate us.
And-
no, they
and
don't.
Jews-
They hate us because we support Israel.
and Jews did better in Muslim countries than they did in European countries throughout most of history. It's
I'll
not,
tell you,
Don't give the
100%.
Turks any more credit.
No,
Do not
I'm gonna
give the
take it.
Turks any more fucking credit.
I'm gonna
I
take the
hate
credit.
this revisionist history.
No,
where
this is
everything
real.
was perfect under the Ottoman
Jews'
Empire.
real enemy is the European right wing. It's not the Muslims.
There
but-
would be,
This is true. This one is like, this is not Abraham Lincoln
No,
and
there-
Elvis Presley. The Ottoman Empire.
he admitted it.
The Ottoman Empire pulls up their entire navy to Spain during the Spanish Inquisition. And the Spanish are like, what the fuck? Are the Ottomans invading? And they're like, no, we came for the Jews. Okay, give us the Jews, we'll take them back to the Ottoman Empire. They're like, really? You want the fucking Jews? And the Ottomans are like, yeah. And they took like 400,000 Jews from Spain.
Thank you for that.
No problem. And saved their lives. Look, why did they do it? Because they're an empire and they thought that it would be useful throughout the empire, merchants, this, that, the other thing, right? But still, it was a wonderful act of generosity. And in the Turkish fleet, the lead ship still has at its mast a Quran and a Torah for the alliance between Jews and Turks.
I think there
They
is.
also took in Jews during World War II.
I think there is history of peaceful living together, but there is plenty of times throughout the Ottoman Empire where Jews were persecuted.
Of course.
So I think sometimes our revisionist history of this is like, oh, it was perfect, and then
no,
World
no,
It's
War
gonna always be the revisionist history.
Yeah, of course.
It's gonna be
It
revisionist
was an
history.
empire. Horrible things do
It's going
happen.
to be
but
revisionist history with this moment we're in now because you got to get the people to forget.
Exactly.
If you don't get them to
Yeah.
forget,
Yes,
it's going to
yeah.
always be a constant cycle.
Yes, yes.
But go back to civil rights for a second, because I saw LA there in the picture, and I was like, look,
Yeah, we got to get to our own problems. So let's
yeah. So So because to the point you made earlier, Charlamagne, if there was a real leader in that movement, right, they would be like, anytime anybody does violence, we do a circle around them and we walk them over to the police, okay? Why? Because in the civil rights movement, they didn't tolerate that shit. If anyone did any violence, they were out. They were out, okay? Because if you do violence, we're not gonna win.
Yeah, you're messing up the movement.
Yeah, because the other side will out-violence us every time, right? That's a stupid strategy. Not only is it an immoral strategy, it's a dumb strategy.
Yeah.
We need to go back to the civil rights way of thinking about it. Like, you're doing damage. Like some.
You know what else that worked? Nation of Islam. When JFK got assassinated, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told the Nation of Islam, nobody say anything about this. We're over here. We're building up our communities. We're building up our neighborhood. We're building up our organization.
This is not
we
our
don't
fight.
need that. This man was beloved by the country. We don't need any smoke. Malcolm X went out there, said the chickens have come home to roost. What did Elijah Muhammad do? He benched Malcolm X. So that's essentially what you're saying.
Yeah, and the problem is that the folks on the ground, one is they're emotional. I get it. Like, it feels like a war and the other side's hitting you with tear gas canisters and you do a normal human reaction, which is fuck that, let's burn things down, right? So that's one. The other is the activists don't help, man. They're the opposite of the civil rights movement. They're like, yeah, let's go get them. Let's call in a Waymo and burn it. How did that help immigrants when you burn down these cars?
Well, now they have to take Ubers, right?
I mean, right? And that costs money.
They drive them.
I mean, I can understand burning down the Waymos, guys. You're taking our jobs, all right?
You're taking illegal immigrants' jobs.
I get it. I have no problem. Why do we need self-driving cars in L.A. with all these Mexicans driving around?
So this is what I would say to the folks at home. Like, if you're going to a protest...
When they make self-driving lawn equipment, it's great.
They got that shit, son.
No,
They
man.
I saw it. It was out. You know those like they'll clean your floors. What are they called? It's like a. You know the one that's like an automatic little circular vehicle that will clean all the dust off your carpet and floor?
Yeah,
they have that for lawns now.
Shit.
I saw one cooking up on a lawn, and I saw like 4 Mexican dudes just staring at that shit like.
What's up, man?
Fucking China taking our jobs, fool. Like,
I wish we had that when I was growing up.
yeah, that was
Oh, I
great.
hated mowing the lawn.
Yeah.
I hated it.